Welcome to the Kop TV, the voice of football's most famous stand.
Yes, hello and welcome back to your second free show of the day. It's Top of the Kops right here on the Kop TV with myself, AGT. Tonight I'm joined by a very knowledgeable guest, a very experienced guest in terms of the football and the music scene. It's Mr. Joe Walker. How are you doing, my good sir?
I'm great. I'm delighted to be here. Appreciate the invite this evening. And how you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, bro. It's a pleasure to have you on. Big Palace fan. We'll get into how Palace have somehow become Liverpool's bogey team over the last few years. And we'll also round up everything that happened in the weekend in Europe. And of course, we can't not talk about the Harry Maguire incident today. He's actually been found guilty. And we will also speak about a bit of transfer news as well. And then we'll get on to Joe's Matchday Mixer with a classic Crystal Palace Would You Rather as well, which Joe doesn't know about, but that would be fun too.
Okay.
And then we've got the Top of the Kops moment of the week. And then we'll take some questions from you guys as well. So some comments coming in already. I think Sam here is referring to the result we've just had with Salzburg, the 2-2 draw, which we will be talking about very shortly. And Darren Whelan actually says, best of luck to Palace in the new season. See, this is the type of viewer. It's very friendly, Joe. We've actually got, and I hope he does tune in, we've got a guy called Diogo who comments on every single show, and he's a massive Palace fan, so I do hope that he comes in tonight as well. So we'll get to know Joe a little bit more throughout the show, but starting off with a few Liverpool updates, Joe. I mean, we've just finished the game with Salzburg. It was played in front of 1,250 people, and it was a 2-2 draw. I mean, it's the second game. We played against Stuttgart on Monday, or maybe Saturday, sorry. 2-2 tonight, Joe. 2 goals down in the first half, 2-0 at half-time to Salzburg. And then the man, the myth, the legend. Well, he's not really a man. Well, he is a man. He is over 18. Ryan Brewster comes on to score 2 goals for Liverpool, and it ends in a 2-2 draw. Joe, I've been a massive fan of Ryan. And on my show, On the Radar, which I do every morning, I've been very much of the opinion that instead of dipping in and buying another striker, let's, for this season at least, keep Origi and Brewster to bring off the bench. I mean, what do you make of him? Scores 3 goals in 2 games for Liverpool so far in pre-season.
Yeah, I think if you're Brewster, you'll wonder, right, kind of when you're setting personal targets as to, right, what do I need to do to kind of stay around this Liverpool setup, maybe get considered for the coming season. I think he's been kind of doing everything he's supposed to be asked of, you know, the really impressive spell at Swansea last season. And then you've got, back in pre-season with the side, and he's making an impact. You can't really ask him to do any more than he's done so far, I suppose. And yes, he's very young, but he would also be compared to, say, you know, if you were to get in another player as a squad option, if maybe someone in Origi's position might be a bit more, itchy feet at his status in the squad. But I think Brewster would be more than happy to take up that same position and wait his turn, because he would just back himself to take that turn when it comes.
Yeah, you mentioned how well he played at Swansea. I think it was 10 goals in 21 games for the Swans, which is a 1-2 record, as any striker should really aim for. Like you said, I mean, he has done nothing wrong. I always harp back to this, but we played Arsenal in the League Cup 5-5 back in October, and Ryan led the line that night. And although he didn't score, what I have to say, Joe, is it's almost like he's watched Alan Shearer's or the Bullish Number 9's DVDs, and he's taken every point, because what he does so well. I mean, he was playing that night against Mustafi and Socrates, who, listen, they're not the best centre-backs in the world, but one of them's a World Cup winner and the other one is a big lad. And Ryan absolutely had his hand in their chest the whole night. He was backing into them. He really showed me that he's ready for this level. I mean, I mentioned earlier on the show this morning that I'd like to see Brewster get 10 to 15 league and cup games for Liverpool. Do you think that's realistic?
I think so. I think if he stays around and, as that, you know, proves himself in the training, I mean, I'm sure the Liverpool staff will be seeing the reality of his development in the last season across pre-season. It's a very peculiar pre-season that we've got, but seeing him arrive and enter the setup, and they'll notice the difference that he may have displayed between now and last summer when he was last around, or at least the last in the setup. And I think there's no reason why he can't, because when he's on the pitch, you kind of essentially, it's someone you feel like you can depend on to be in the right areas and nick a goal.
Yeah. Like, if you see the 3 goals that he scored in pre-season already, they're very reactive, kind of fox in the box goals, which you'd expect from a bagsman like Brewster, to be honest. Another man on many Liverpool fans' lips at the minute is Ginny Winaldo. Huge fan of Ginny. Absolutely love him. Could not say a bad word about him as a person, as a player. But a lot of Liverpool fans now, Joe, are thinking, well, if the only way to get Thiago is to get rid of Ginny to free up a little bit of space, I mean, if you're a Liverpool fan, what would you want? Ginny or Thiago, or both? I think both is an option.
Right. Yeah. Well, to be fair, so some of those, when you look at elite sides, there's often just one player too many in those areas, and what tends to be the case is that on those Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday weeks where you've got 3 games in a week, there will be a needed rotation, and the players need to equally be of that level. You can't just have a dependable squad option for that midweek game. You need every player to be elite. It's like bringing Leroy Sané into that Bayern Munich side next season. They're going to have to just rotate it around, and they'll find a way. And I presume that's going to be Liverpool's aim for this coming, if they get when Thiago comes, because a team always has to look to improve. And as good as you've been, you still have to kind of go, right, who is the least worst player in the team? Okay, and then that's, if Wijnaldum's the most replaceable player in your side, you're doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I think you're more likely to just see him. I think you're going to have both. I don't think he'll depart unless he really pushes for that move away. I think he's more likely to just kind of back himself to, get as many games as he can and compete. And, injuries happen too. Everyone at Anfield should be kind of riding high on happiness right now. So I think they're all going to give themselves another go, as long as the manager doesn't say you're not needed anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at that midfield berth, we've got Curtis Jones coming through, Milner's there, Henderson's there, Keita's there, Wijnaldum, Fabinho, the Ox is injured. Right. So, I mean, like you say, man, there's a lot of positions there that maybe is, surplus to requirements. But like you also say, it's great to be able to swap around. Darren here says, I think we could have both. This will be the biggest year of football ahead due to the COVID impact, and we especially will need quality options. Absolutely.
A great point,
Darren. I mean, there's a couple other names that are linked away from Liverpool. I mean, Loris Karius, how he's still even a part of the training camp is baffling. He's probably been done a favour there by COVID, the fact that maybe he can't travel as much. But he's got to go. And I know there's the thing saying, well, look, don't be too harsh on the lad. I mean, we're in professional football. This isn't Sunday League now. If we're being honest with ourselves, Karius robbed us of a 7th European Cup. So as much as he might be a nice lad, I'm sorry, he has to go. The Anfield Talk actually says, can we just cancel Karius? I think he's cancelled himself, to be honest. I'm not going to lie after that. And there's talk.
It's such a symbol. Bless him. It's such a symbolic thing with him. I think it's just a kind of a chapter that needs to be closed for him anyway. I mean, I think we all hoped that was it Besiktas that he was at, that was going to just kind of be his next chapter, and it hasn't worked out for him, which is that his head must be on the floor, but that can't be your problem at this point, I don't think.
I mean, I think the facts were that he played over 70 games for Besiktas and conceded 60 goals. So I'm not being funny. If it can't work there for him, I really don't know what's going to happen with Karius going forward. But obviously there was some huge European football at the weekend. Thanks to Adrian, we weren't involved in that. But Bayern won the Champions League. They get to number 6 now. I mean, you watched the game, Joe. What did you think of it from start to finish?
I thought it was probably more open than Bayern would have liked it to have been. I definitely don't think they had some of the exchanges in the first half. They could have been behind very easily, but come the second half, they just sort of not turned it on, but they just seemed to readjust and assert their dominance and got the goal with one of their sort of few chances that they had. The game was a muchness. You know, if you were a PSG player, you might have been thinking, "Oh, we had a chance there." But if you look at across the whole tournament, I think Bayern were the deserving. They were clearly the best team in Europe, if you look at it like that. So I can't really have any arguments with how that ended up.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, they're at 6 now, which is obviously on level with Liverpool. And I wasn't too mad at that for a couple of reasons. One, because whenever we've played PSG recently, I'm not being funny. I know Neymar is an exceptional talent. It's so clear to see. But he pisses me off with the diving, man. Like, and that makes me not like PSG. Someone said to me the other day they're just a French city, and obviously no one likes City. So, you know, I wasn't too mad at Bayern beating that. I mean, did we expect a bit more from PSG? We've seen they only scraped past Atalanta, really. They obviously did super well domestically. But how many times now, you know, with the same manager, with a different manager, can they get so close without there being some kind of uproar about, hang on, we've spent almost £1 billion. Well, we've spent £500 million on our front three alone. Where's the trophies? Where's the European trophies? How much longer can they go without winning it?
Yeah, and I do wonder if the ownership, how long they're invested in it for, if they're going to just happy to keep trying without, if they're going to get bored of it somewhere along the line. But I think at the moment, sort of you mentioned City there as a parallel. I think we've seen where City's problems have lay in the last couple of years in Europe has been definitely, you know, more on the manager's head rather than actually kind of they're on the players they've got and the system. I think with PSG, you've got, no matter who they've got, it's still, you've got these mercurial talents in certain areas that are kind of, okay, give them the ball and just hope for the best. You've got some dependable players elsewhere, but actually as a team unit, it still looks a bit too much like dependent on a Neymar and Mbappe. And there was a point once Bayern went in front on the weekend, Sunday, you could just see, and it's something that happens at Palace a lot because of how Zaha we are set up with. He started coming very, very deep to get the ball because he's just got that. And right, I'm the person that gets the stuff done. I've got to take the ball up the pitch. But in doing so, in kind of trying to take the game by the scruff of the neck, he is miles away from the threatening areas. And it's just completely kind of taken himself away from those areas of danger where he's really going to be the threat that PSG need him to be. It's a bit not too dissimilar to kind of some of those kind of classic Gerrard games and stuff, except where he was a midfielder. So him going and carrying it wasn't as bad as your kind of winger coming into your own half, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of similarities there. Darren says, sad to see, actually, because no doubt he has the class to be great, but we can't consider him one due to this side of the game. Very, very interesting. He also says, if Neymar played the game without the added drama and the silly ego, he would be exceptional. Claudia, a big fan of the channel, says, we're an elite club. We don't need to lose Ginny to get a player in like Thiago. Very interesting. Guys, if you are watching right now, please like the video and comment as well as sharing it. A quick one on the Europa League final. I mean, we've lost to Sevilla in that cup before, in the final. We know what it's like. And I was watching that with my old man, and he said, Inter will win this all day. And I said, Sevilla, this is their trophy. I mean, did you expect anything other than a Sevilla win for that one?
I did. Do you know what? I still thought, you know, there was going to be an impressive Inter performance, but Sevilla just schooled them. Really, they got the goals when they needed to, and you could just tell every time they popped up with another goal. You just saw it, especially with the third goal. I don't know if you saw the reactions to the Inter players in the box. All just kind of heads really dropped from that point, and they never really cut through after that. So
even
like
replay where Campos is running off to celebrate, you can see them all in the back like this.
Yeah.
And they kind of knew at that point, I think, that it was all over. Right, let's get into some other news then. Ronald Koeman is obviously the new Barcelona manager. We've already touched on what that means for Ginny Winaldo. But Messi, only recently in the last hour or two, has confirmed that he wants to leave Barcelona. I mean, Sung Joe, can you name maybe 2 clubs that would seriously be interested in taking him on?
Well, that's it, because there's definitely going to be a financial sort of package involved, not just in the fee. The fees to sign him is going to be silly, even with him wanting to leave. But then the wages, and you know that sort of side is going to be a Man City. You know they're going to crowbar him in. and they'll definitely be involved in that bid at some point. I wouldn't even be surprised to see PSG actually, now we're thinking about it, try and muscle their way in. It's very short of options unless he goes for the I'm going to go to Newell's Old Boys in Argentina sort of route. I think there's only so many places that can financially justify getting him in.
Yeah, I mean, I said this earlier to a mate that, he could look at a China or he could look at America. But, I mean, he is 2 years younger than Ronaldo, and Ronaldo is still unbelievable. So is Messi, of course. But Ronaldo, at 33, moves to Juventus and becomes the top scorer 2 leagues in a row. If Messi does anything apart from go to one of these top European clubs, does that leave a tiny stain on his legacy? Whereas, the Ronaldo fans would be like, well, Ronaldo is 2 years older than him and he's doing better. It's a tough one. Like you say, he could go back to Newell's Old Boys. He could go to a PSG. And speaking of PSG, Thiago Silva looks like he's going to Chelsea. I mean, these men are just playing career mode. They're spending money like it's not even a thing. Like, we know where the money's coming from. That's a silly question. But, I mean, Chelsea now, if they can get in Chilwell, if they can get in Havertz for 100 million, looks like they're going to get Silva. They're just a completely different outfit to last season now.
Yeah, there was there's been a lot of talk about, with that year of not signing anybody, they're going to have a little bit more money in the pot. I didn't realize just quite how rarely they were going to spend. The Chilwell one's been sort of telegraphed from the start of the year, but they've done so well. Even we got Werner in there as well. That's already done.
Yeah.
And Ziyech. Yeah, it's insane. The Thiago Silva one, I understand as a short-term option. I think if you are Frank Lampard or whoever is in charge of the recruitment at Chelsea, you look at that defense last year and go, maybe we need an experienced head, not to kind of be the long-term solution, but get someone in that knows how to rally the troops if the chips are down and can actually probably teach a thing or two to some of those younger players like Tomori or Christensen, even, who's still quite young. I always forget how he's been around a while, but he's still very young for a centre-back. So I think there's a lot of that, and trying to have him as this off-the-pitch influence as much as on for the next couple of years. And then hopefully, I guess as long as they've envisioned it, I think he paves a way for those younger people to come through and be kind of more dependable.
Yeah, I mean, 33, probably a good move for him. Game here says Liverpool 3, Arsenal 0. He's getting his Community Shield prediction in early. Liverpool will smoke Arsenal now that there's nothing actually on the line. Don't forget, guys, on the channel, I will be at Box Park, Wembley tomorrow with the AFTV guys on the Super Fan panel debate. It'll be myself and Drifty from Kopish, as well as Troops and DT. So I'm going to have to take my Suvas tonight so I can shout back at Troops.
Yeah, bring a megaphone. Get a word in.
I mean, we've done videos together in the past, and he always comes away thinking he's won the debate because he's just shouted the whole time. Yeah, you know how it goes. Right, let's talk about Harry Maguire. Just now, in the last hour, he has been charged guilty with multiple attempts of bribery, assault. I mean, listen, as a Liverpool fan, we've had our captain in the headlines for the wrong reason before. We can all remember the Gerrard Southport incident where he allegedly punches a DJ for not playing the right song. What do you think about this, Joe? Because when the news came out the other day, I think people were very, very quick, including myself, to label him a thug and what have you. And then there was a kind of, well, actually, let's see what he's done. And then it was, he's defended his sister, good lad. But then today, I mean, he's been proven guilty, Joe. So, I mean, what are your immediate thoughts on this? And he's been named in the England squad as well.
Yeah, I think now, given what Southgate said in the press conference as well, I guess we'll get onto the England squad in a bit, but that kind of, he said, he's given me his story and I back him, and, I'm sure it will be dealt with today. It would have probably been a lot safer just to go, we're going to wait and see what happens. Yeah. Now, because I think now they'll probably, well, it depends, because the sentence is a suspended one. So he's not going to do any time, but I think, they still might have to just symbolically go, maybe sit this one out. My initial I remember when the arrest happened, I was firstly quite just frustrated that a Manchester United and England captain. I understand that there's very few. Their options are limited at the moment as a Brit going on holiday, and So you might not be able to go do your Dubai or your Miami or, you know, those places that they like to go, or Marbella or whatever. But Mykonos is where it's almost like if you were to pick kind of the top 3 or 4 places that everyone from Britain has been going to if they are leaving the country at the moment, that's probably right up there. And I think as a Man United captain, England international, I think you're aware of what kind of grief you're going to get from people or the attention that you bring. I just thought that was asking for trouble. I'm sure it was a family outing and they got friends and it was all civil and stuff up to a point, but I just think that just says like that's a bad idea to go and do that holiday. The stories are a bit outlandish. The stuff about, you know, his sister being injected with date rape drugs was quite a bold, big claim, and I'm not going to say that didn't happen. That's just quite like, in his defense, I feel like on balance, I have to say like it's a very hurried trial. If they were like dependent on, say, CCTV footage from a restaurant or bar, you'd want to build a case around it. But the judge this morning said, no, you're not going to build a case. It's all very hurried along. His word against police. I don't doubt that he probably offered them bribes, because there is a kind of attitude and maybe unfair attitude to some of the police in UK holiday hotspots. I've definitely had those kind of encounters and secondhand stuff. Where like Magaluf and Iron Apple, those sort of places where you're about to get a slap on the wrist. If you just chuck a few euros, you're sent on your way. Like that's a real thing. So I can understand him in the drunk stupor just trying to deal with that, but legally that's just a bad idea. So yeah, if they're not into it, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very. I mean, he couldn't have even dreamed that this situation would ever even occur. He's gone away with his family, caught up with some other UK lads, and they've done what they've done, and he's done what he's done. There's actually a little picture here I'm going to show. Under Greece's penal code, Maguire could face a 3-year sentence, but is likely to be spared as a result of a scheme that allows defendants to convert their sentences into paid penalties. I mean,
yeah,
it's 20. That saying that essentially says to me, if you pay us the money, you won't have to come to jail.
Yeah, because the sentence was 21 months suspended.
Yeah.
So whether that, because the way that was presented, that what you said there, it suggested it as possible an alternative to the suspended sentence. But so it's not. I'm not clear yet whether that suspended sentence that he has got means he doesn't have to pay the penalty, or whether the pay penalty ensures it's only a suspended sentence. But yeah, it's a minefield, and I'm sure he's just happy to get out of that situation now. I think he's appealed it actually, which is some sort of claim to. I just need to. That I've clearly got. I want to make a case here that I didn't get to defend myself properly. But one thing I'm curious about, whether or not the appeal goes through or not, is if United this season are drawn against AEK Athens, is he going to be allowed back in the country?
That is a great shout. I mean, I've just tuned into Terry Flewer's stream there, who was talking immediately after the news came out. And I mean, he was saying initially, you have to get rid of the captaincy for Man United. He's been found guilty. Whatever happens now, he's been found guilty. The first foremost thing you need to do is strip him of the captaincy. And then from there, I mean, if you're a Man United fan, do you really want your captain and your main man in the centre of the defence to be going around bribing policemen and allegedly, you know, assault repeatedly?
Yeah.
Is that the kind of guy that you want? I know there's a joke about, listen, he would have done what any brother did. And yes, I do agree with that. If my sister came under threat from either someone that stabbed her or put something in a drink, bro, I'm going ballistic.
Yeah.
Taking whatever punishment I get on the chin. And I hear that. But do you really want, if you were a Man United fan, to have that as your centre-back?
Well, I think a lot of fans will always find the reasoning to kind of defend their own in a way, and so I think it won't be as kind of the widespread condemnation maybe won't come in a way that you might expect. But I think symbolically for United, I think they probably, I agree, they probably, for the sake of sponsors and just kind of common sense, just maybe take him out of those ambassadorial roles that come with the captaincy and stuff for now. Just give it to somebody else. he would understand. He's not going to get complaining up and leave the club as a result of that. He has to kind of take it on the chin while it's all still ongoing, because it's a ridiculous situation.
It is. Sam Wright here says, proofs in the pudding. You can't argue against the court of law. I mean, you can. That's what barristers are for. Darren, actually, another comment here from him. A question for Joe. What are your season's predictions, and where do Palace finish?
My predictions for this season are generally a lot of terrible, sluggish football from about January onwards. I've got tickets for some of the Euros games next summer, and I just think it's going to be a horrible tournament, just because it's relentless. I've looked at some of the calendars. If you have another season like you have with Liverpool, where you have some strong cup runs, you're going to be doing Saturday, Tuesday, or the Super Sunday, whatever, the whole way through. Like, there's very little room for error in that at all, and it comes back to what we were saying about Thiago and Wijnaldum. You probably are going to need to have them all, actually. And I think it's about who deals with that situation best as to who fares best in the league. I don't think you can do so. Leicester had a great season a couple of years ago where essentially they just had that core 11-12 that were the team, and they got all the way through without any scrapes and won the league. I don't think any team's going to be able to get away with that. Certainly not this season, because people are going to be dropping like flies. All kind of muscle injuries and stuff like that, no matter how good your conditioning coaches or teams are. So I think it'd be a real interesting test of a team like Liverpool's, in really intense pressing. I mean, it's been kind of faultless up to this point. I don't really pay any attention to that drop off in form. You've won the league. I really don't hold anything to that last season. But yeah, teams like, I think it's going to be a real test of squads and squad depth, and it'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out. As for Palace, I really don't know. I think we've got the lockdown really, really exposed us. We've got the oldest squad in the league quite comfortably. I think we've got the records for like the top 3 or 4 oldest starting 11s. And just that intensity was just a bit too much for everybody. A few players went out of injury. Gary Cahill just hamstring torn in one of the first games back. He's at 35. You can't really ask him to be doing that regularly. Zaha's probably going to stay again. There might be a move maybe towards October, maybe. But as much as the asking price for him has gone down, I just think the way this season has crossed over, I don't think he's going to move this summer. It might be next year. But for once, what I am excited about, which is rare for Palace, we're quite despondent. We're spending money this summer, which I'm on a Liverpool show. That we had a go about 2 or 3 years ago. We bought Benteke for essentially what you paid for, that full release fee. Paid it, and 20 million for Sacco, who is one of the best ever defenders we've had, but just always injured. And we're probably going to have to let him go as a result. I think we might even have to let him go on a free soon, because with a team like Palace, if you're going to make a play, spend that sort of money in a short space of time, it has to yield results. You only get really one big swing at that, a club at our size. And as it hasn't worked, Benteke had a great first season, but what's happened to him since is widely reported. Essentially, we've got 3 or 4 of our top earners don't really get in the side often, or aren't that effective, and it's just unsustainable for Palace. So we haven't actually been signing anyone for any money for ages. But this summer, we finally got the Aaron Wan-Bissaka money from last summer. We failed to spend it properly in the last 12 months, but now we've got it, and I think we've had a bid accepted for Eze from QPR, which is really interesting. We've got Nathan Ferguson from West Brom, really exciting right back. Possibly a striker from Mainz, this French guy. Forgot his name now. That's got quite a decent record. For us, that's quite a busy window. We normally very rarely are that busy in the last few years. So I'm interested to see what happens. It does need refreshing. I think we've got like 12 players out of contract next summer, all of which are sort of the wrong side of 28, 29. So we do need people to come in. It's a big rebuilding job that we've held off for a little while. And I just feel sorry for Roy Hodgson that he's had to endure as long as he's had with the resources that he's got. Hopefully he gets a good run at it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'll find much sympathy for Roy Hodgson on this channel. I'm not
Sure,
gonna lie to you,
sure.
But I did want to talk about your team, Crystal Palace, a truly excellent London club. I will always say that about Palace. The atmosphere that you guys drum up, the support, the away support, and you play really well away from home, especially at Anfield. So, I mean, we were talking before the show about Palace really being Liverpool's bogey team, and especially, I'd say, towards the end of Rodgers and the start of Klopp. I think one press conference in particular after we just won a game, and I think it was maybe a couple of games after we'd lost to Palace at home, and they asked Klopp a question, and he's like, I don't know the answer because I just can't stop thinking about that fucking loss to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, he swore, didn't he? He did swear. I remember that. Yeah.
So he's definitely had Palace in his head a bit. I think when I was growing up, Palace were that team that I remember we've spoken about this again. That FA Cup tie, 2000, 2001. They gave us a very good game then, and then if I'm right in thinking, Palace kind of went away for a bit, and then I'd say from 2015 to 2017, especially at Anfield, I don't know what it was. Maybe you can tell me. They just seemed to beat us home and away for a good 2 years. I think a bit more balanced now. I think we've done well at Selhurst Park in the last couple of seasons and at Anfield, but it's always a tough game, Joe.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said, a bogey team for Liverpool. I think it's as close as you can get for one in the last few years, because obviously I think we're still the last team to win a league game at Anfield. That's like 2-3 years ago.
At Anfield, April 2017.
Yeah, but that was the last of our, because I think we won 3 on the spin at Anfield. I think there was that one under Allardyce, Gerrard's last game at Anfield, and a midweek under Klopp, which was a kind of 2-1 as well. Yeah. And it's funny because the 3-3 gets headlined a lot, but actually I think we've won maybe one other game since we've been promoted at home against you. I think that's it, just the one home win. It's the away form that we've had against you. Even the 4-3, was it last season?
Mane scored a hat-trick that game. That was, again, like, Palace always seem to come in either a white or a yellow kit and at least score one. They always score one at Anfield recently anyway. That was another really tough game last season.
We're a side that's set up to defend really deep. We've got centre backs that are all, Sacco aside, actually quite not very pacey, just happy to kind of do the dirty work, and so they don't really have to move numbers. There's very rarely a high line, but we're set up to defend deep, frustrate, and then when the time comes, bomb. Whether it was Wan-Bissaka before or Van Aanholt still now, backing up Townsend, Zaha, and maybe now Jordan Ayew or Benteke, even when he was still a bit more useful, and just hitting people on the break. And teams like Liverpool are always going to commit at home against a team like us, and so there's always going to be opportunities. More recently, Palace have had that with City. We beat City, the season before, and we got a draw against them this season. Just finished at the Etihad as well. It's just it's the way we're set up. I'll never go into a game against the top 6 thinking I never feel like we're gonna get battered here, and it does happen every now and then. But I always think we're as likely to nick something away from home in those games as we are to beat. Say Fulham are coming up. We're as likely to beat Fulham or Leeds at home as we are to nick something away at an Old Trafford or at Emirates. It's just that's how we are, which is back to front. I think the dream for a lot of promoted sides is to beat everyone around you and then kind of build from there. And that's got a lot of what, when we were under Pulis, a lot of that was built upon that. We didn't lose to anyone in that bottom half, get spanked by everyone else, but that's fine. We've won our games to stay up. But we are just this weird mishmash in the middle where we get a fair decent amount of points on the road, especially against the bigger sides. But we do struggle to break down a side that will just come, a team that comes to Selhurst and doesn't want to open up. We've got no ideas.
Yeah, no, I'm not just saying it because you're here, but Palace is a proper club, and obviously I hope you do very well next season. Right, let's get on to Matchday Mixer. This is my favourite part of the show. If you don't know already what Matchday Mixer is, well, as you all know, we can't go to the games, so I thought, why not bring all the best parts of the Matchday experience to you? So I've asked Joe for his music taste, a bit of fashion, food, and these are all parts of football culture, obviously, that we all know and love. So let's get into Joe's Matchday Mixer. He'll have an opportunity to explain his choices after. So we're going to start off with your shoes. Very important. I always dress from the shoes up. You've gone for the classic Reebok Classic, which is an excellent choice.
Yeah, I went through a very, very long spell of only wearing Reebok trainers. They were just so much more affordable at the time, I seem to remember. And it just became a habit. I fell in love with Reebok workouts, especially from the Reebok Classic range. They're my kind of timeless shoe that I'll always, if I walk past one in a shop, I'll always go, oh, yeah, maybe, and try there, But yeah, when it comes to Saturdays or going to a match day, Reebok Classics, that's the brand I'm more likely to wear. I don't know, just goes with my football attire a lot more than, say, I've got a huge Nike shoe collection, but my Reebok Classics, they go with the jeans, they go with the certain shorts, they kind of go with,
Can't beat them. Now, obviously, we all need to wear jackets. We all need to be warm at the match. And I did give you a long list of, your Stone Islands, your Fred Perrys, your Adidases. What I love about this choice is you forgot about all of the noise and went down to Selhurst Park in this. It's the official club jacket, the Puma edition Crystal Palace jacket. Love it.
Yeah, I like to go and get something nice from the club shop. If we've got a good manufacturing brand, or I think I always have a look at the merch. It helps with some of the the away ticket priorities and stuff like that as well. You get points for in the club shop, so I like to get myself a tracksuit. But the jacket, is always just little hints of red and blue, quite relatively stylish, but something I know I'm gonna wear to match days, and I don't I don't look too much like I'm not nothing against shirts or anything like that. I've got all the Palace shirts too, but it's a little bit more subtle. I feel like it feels appropriate. I like to feel match day appropriate.
Do you know what? You could easily get away with a plain white tee under that. There's no reason to, like you say, be bold and brash with shirts, socks, shorts. I mean, that's just madness these days. But no, I do think that's a very good choice. Now, obviously, as well, you've got to have something to drink on the day. Actually gone for a Strongbow dark fruit. Again, there was a long list, guys, of drinks that Joe could choose from here. I even had cocktails in there. I didn't think you did that, to be fair. But no, an excellent match day choice.
Yeah, this just came from years of trying to keep up with the group that I go to football with, trying to catch up with my father and his friends, these seasoned beer drinkers and lager drinkers. I realized after years of trying, I was like, this isn't enjoyable. Like, I'm actually like, I'm normally a pint behind if I want to drink at my own pace. And so it got to a point, I think dark fruit started to get popular a couple of years ago, and I just pounced on it and was like, this tastes great. I think I had it at a festival and was like, I can actually drink this all day and it's not going to knock me out or leave me really bloated. I might get a sugar crash at some point, and that's different. But yeah, when the pub that I drink at match days, when that started serving that on tap, that was it. That was me forever. Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay. You found your drink, Joe. You found your drink. It's a Strongbow dark fruit. Love it.
Goodness.
Now, obviously, you got to eat something as well. We can't go to the game on an empty stomach. Being a South London supporting man, this didn't surprise me. And now, if you know about Morley's, I mean, we could actually get a physical picture of. I think the producer here has mishmashed a few bits together, but the idea is the same. It's a chicken burger, especially from Morley's, though. Has to be
yes. So on South Nord High Street, which is, if you've been to Selhurst, that's kind of the nearest station that a lot of away fans end up going back to London from, or to the train lines, is Norwood Junction. And that high street that I walk through that on the way home from games, and they've got a big Morley's there that is just a bit too hard to resist.
You smell it and you got to get in there.
Yeah, exactly. Just walking past it, you go, I'll tell you what, Dad, you keep walking. I'm going to catch up with you. I'm going to go in there. And sometimes, depending on how I feel, I'll get the chicken burger, the chips, and the drink, but I'll also maybe chuck in 6 wings as well. And I'm walking, eating on the go like an absolute scumbag, but it's too good. It's too good.
Love that. I've got a mate in Tooting. I've had Morley's a lot. Big fan of it. Whenever I get the Gatwick Express, I always go past Selhurst Park station. Is that not the nearest station then to the ground?
There's 2 or 3 that are all kind of very. Selhurst is the closest, but I think in terms of the frequency of trains, I think a lot of people like to go to Norwood Junction. Okay. You've also got Thornton Heath, which is very close as well. It's funny. So Palace, I guess before our time, it used to be kind of famously regarded as one of the worst grounds to get to in the country because I guess in London, if people think if it's not on the tube, it's a ball ache. Like to get on, you've got into London and now you've got to get on another mainline train to get to Palace, and it feels like you're leaving the city again. So I kind of understand that, but there are actually so many. There's like 3 or 4 stations around it. It's just one of them isn't the one that's called Crystal Palace is absolutely miles away. So people used to get lost. So it got quite a bad reputation, but yeah, there's quite a few options there, but yeah, Norwood Junction is the big one that goes to like London Bridge and Victoria.
Yeah, always London Bridge when I go. I think a lot of people actually think when they get into Liverpool Lime Street that Anfield's just literally across the road. I think it's 1.3 miles from the station, which if you were to walk, you're looking at 40 minutes. It's not a nice walk, I'll be honest. It's it's not the nicest walk in the world from Lime Street to Anfield, but yeah, that's the route a lot of people take. So listen, Joe, thanks so much for your Matchday Mixer. They were superb choices, I have to say.
It's quite right. I can only pick of what I know. That was how I played it as I saw it.
You're not going to fake it, are you?
No.
Oh, hang on, we've still got one more. Of course.
The music.
I forget. What a sorry, babe. That's a bad for me there. But J Hus, I mean, what can this boy not do? He's an absolute gargantuan when it comes to hit records. And there is simply no one else like J Hus.
Yeah, I think when it came to the list of suggestions and stuff and options, there was so much there that I listened to. But with Hus, I think I'm at that point now. Maybe I'm a bit too weathered. There's only certain people that I kind of I'm off. It's the equivalent of like a talented players on the. Let's say you're on the attack at Liverpool, right? And it comes to Mane on out wide. And, fans will get up off their seat and kind of go, right, what's he going to do? And I think Hus is that to me still. So like when he's got a new song out, I go like, right, what's let me hear this thing. And to me, he's still got the my favorite album of the year. I think some people were surprised at how maybe it was a bit mature for someone at his age. It was a bit, but I adore it, absolutely adore it. So he's still my guy.
I think sonically, the relationship that he has with J5 is literally like Sutton and Shearer. I do not think there is a better combination in music, full stop, especially UK music, to have J5 just absolutely churning out banger after banger. It really is a relationship that I hope lasts long. I mean, again, a lot of options on there. You could have gone for Camel Fat. You could have gone for Drake. But you're actually the first person to pick J Hus, and I respect it. That does round us off now for the Matchday Mixer. Let's get into a couple of comments here. Would I take Messi at Liverpool? Would I take Rihanna as a girlfriend? That's your answer there, Rick Gak. I mean, it's a silly question, really. Whether it will happen or not is a different thing. Max Meyer was highly rated in the Bundesliga, Joe. What is happening to him? Or what is not happening?
Yeah, it's a great question because he was kind of, as I said earlier, we haven't spent a great deal of money on transfer fees. And then when there was a bit of pressure put on, he was suddenly rolled out as this marquee signing. And it was very exciting. But I just don't know where Roy Hodgson knows where to play him, to be honest. So I think he emerged in Germany as this sort of exciting, creative player, maybe even a number 10. And then he had a falling out there. And towards the end of his time there, he was playing in holding midfield as they tried to change him into a bit more of a tough tackler, all-rounder. Roy Hodgson hasn't really taken to him in that role. I think he's always going to prefer cloggers and kind of destroyers like Czech Kuyate and James McArthur, who I must say, James McArthur is one of my favourite Palace players. Very underrated, incredibly consistent performer. And yeah, tales like that and Milivojevic. When Meyer has played, it's been, square pegs in round holes. So it's been like wide of a front three when we're short when we've got a few injuries. And he's got tricks there and he's creative, but it's not his position, you can tell. There's been other occasions where he's been thrown into the deep end in midfield against the Burnley. I think he got a chance away at Burnley, and he just got bullied. Like, because physically he's quite slight, and that shouldn't be a reason to write someone off. But I think in a Hodgson style midfield, you're going to need to be a bit more about that. I know that's a very depressing answer, because that's just such a regressive look at it. But it's just not worked out for him. And at this point, for his sake, I'd imagine he should go in the next month or two, because it's been 2 seasons now, and he's not really getting a sniff.
Am I right in thinking he played at Anfield recently when we beat you 4-0, and he played all right from what I can remember?
I think his only Palace goal was at Anfield in that 4-3. I think he got a late compensation. But he very rarely plays.
Yeah.
So strange.
Another Crystal Palace-based question here. Of course, it's time for Would You Rather. Now, Joe, would you rather sell Zaha and finish 7th, or keep him, finish 10th, and get an FA Cup semi-final run?
Now, if we say 7th, does 7th get Europe?
7th get so what?
In this situation?
In the olden, not the olden days, in the noughties, teams like Newcastle would finish 8th and get a place in the UEFA Cup because either fair play or they might get an Intertoto. Remember that competition there? So
Palace once got into the Intertoto. In '98, we finished bottom of the Premier League, and at that time it became a thing about fair play. I think if you got an entrance, but I think every team that was eligible in the Premier League at that time said they didn't want to do it, and so they literally went, "Any volunteers?" And Palace were relegated, but it just had this new takeover. So they went, "Oh yeah, this is a great way to, get our name in lights." And I think we just got beat 2-0 home and away by a Turkish team I'd not heard of since. And that's our only European experience. It's so bleak.
You know what? There's a lot of trophies actually that have come and gone from the 90s, especially. I mean, you had the Milk Cup, you had the Umbro Cup. I don't know if you remember that. I think '98 it was England and Brazil in that. There's some more. You'll be able to help me. Just cups that
Le Tournoi.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. That was international.
Cup Winners' Cup, I guess, finish as well.
European Cup Winners' Cup. Obviously, I think Ipswich won that. I mean, there's loads of cups that we could go through that aren't around anymore. But yes, on this occasion, Joe, for the sake of this answer, 7th gets you in the Europa League.
Then yeah, absolutely, all day. As at this point in time, if you I'm speaking to all my Palace fans and stuff, the only thing that that is left for us to kind of build towards, we're not going to win titles. We're not going to, but we just want one European summer. We've been looking at so Burnley, when Burnley got into Europe about a year or two ago, they played in July, and they played, I think the first game they went to was, I think, in Ireland or Northern Ireland. No, in fact, I tell you, it was Aberdeen. They got Aberdeen, which isn't a glamour tie, but it's a good warm up. Then got through that tie, went to Istanbul, got through that tie, and then had Olympiacos, and then eventually eliminated. So they were out of the tournament by August, but they had 3 away days, and that was how everyone's looked at it, being like, we just want that. Like, if you get into the group, even better, and have this Wolves adventure that they've had, that's dreamland. But we'll take just those 3 qualifying rounds, even if we get eliminated on the 3rd. Give me a weekend in Andorra in July. That's doesn't matter. Yeah,
made of, mate. What dreams are made of? Weekends in Andorra in July. Yeah, let's start a hashtag. Bring back the Intertoto Cup. Fuck it. Palace back in Europe. Love that. So Joe there has gone for a sell Zaha and finish 7th answer, which is actually probably what I thought he'd go with. Darren asking me here, would I take Zaha at Liverpool? I mean, Zaha is a quality player. I'm sure we've been linked with him in the past. Funnily enough, we probably need someone in that position. But I can rule out the transfer because Zaha is just not going to want to sit on the bench. So we can rule that one out. Now let's get on to the final part of the show, which is the top of the KOPS moments of the week. As you know, this show is very largely based on top of the pops. And of course, there has to be a number 2 and a number 1 every week in the music game. as well as the football game here. Number 2 this week in top of the Kops, I'm going to go for Ryan Brewster scoring 3 and 2. This picture was actually taken from today, actually, his second goal against Salzburg. Huge fan of Ryan Brewster. Now everyone is finally waking up to the fact that, yes, he can be our backup striker next season, and I'm all for it. But without question, and you'll have seen this from the title in the video, without question, the top of the Kops moment of the week isn't Philip Coutinho winning the Champions League, by the way, but him winning it has actually meant that we receive an extra £5 million from Barcelona. I mean, Michael Edwards, when he makes this deal, Joe, to one, sell Coutinho for 145 million, but then to whack in a little clause like that at the end.
Incredible.
It's just, if shithousery existed in the contract world, this would go under that. It's unbelievable from Liverpool that we've got another 5 mil. Unbelievable.
Because look, if you're Barcelona, you might agree to that thinking, yeah, because, you know, if we win it with him in the side, of course it justifies it, and, you know, that's all worth it. It's not even entered their mind that, you know, we might have to loan out this 150 million pound signing. Like, that's a ridiculous set of circumstances anyway. So the fact they've done that and not thought, and because of that, they've not thought, right, let's have this watertight so that, you know, it's only if we win the Champions League, if he wins it with us, rather than anyone in the contract.
Yeah,
like that's crazy. It's a bit like, for me, you know, when every now and then a mid-table side will get, who thinks they're an established team, they'll get relegated from the Premier League, and they would have forgotten to put a relegation wage decrease clause in their marquee signings. So I remember Newcastle went down about 10 years ago and had Colaccini in a championship on 80 grand a week, which 10 years ago was just unheard of.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a bit of that. It's almost like, you got to consider every scenario in these contracts.
The mad thing that I can't understand is they've gone, right, here's 145 million, Liverpool, we're going to take him off you. We're going to try and win the Champions League, and then this will be a drop in the ocean. He'll double his value. The first fuck up from them is we beat them 4-0 in the Champions League. They're out, we win it.
Yeah.
The second fuck up, they loan him to Bayern Munich. Is there not some part of them that goes, well, hang on, we're still in Europe, Bayern is still in Europe. Should we not kind of get some clause that means if we do come up against each other, he's watching this from the stands?
Yeah. I think,
and scores 2 goals against them to knock them out, and then wins it. You cannot write this joke.
Yeah, that was a kicker. I think it was a couple of years ago. Chelsea, Courtois was on loan at Atletico from Chelsea, and I think UEFA ruled that he had to play. So I don't think they're able to do those clauses anymore, like we see in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think in the Champions League, if they're on loan, they have to play. But yeah, just what a mess! What a mess!
What a mess!
And even the idea of 150 million pounds and clauses, surely is that not enough?
Liverpool going, right. This is Edwards to Klopp. He's like, right, we've got they're going to take 145, which is, I mean, yeah, I know, wankers. Should we really take the piss and put a few clauses in? They definitely won't accept the clauses, by the way. They accept the clauses, and look what happens. Eugene here is even telling us, breaking news from AP, is that Messi tells Barcelona he wants to leave. We really did some deal with selling Coutinho. Just look how it turned out and all the signings we brought in. Dinesh said 5 million towards Thiago. I mean, there's been this about how Liverpool got the money. It's bullshit. Don't believe it. And if it is true anyway, we've got another 5 mil towards that. Joe, just before we go, man, I wanted you to kind of let us know where we can find you, what you're up to. I mean, if you don't know already, guys, Joe is a very established presenter on the Apple Music scene. I've known you from back in the day on Represent. I used to be on West Side. I mean, you're after, Joe. Tell us where we can find you, man.
Yeah, I still do bits for Represent. I have a Monday drive time show there, 5 till 7. And yeah, so I don't know if my handle on here is Ojo Walker, and that's kind of where I'm found on Instagram, Twitter, everything else. I'm going to be, that's where you're going to find me. Most of the information of stuff I'm doing, little bits and bobs, little bits of writing that I might have done. I've also, which might be of interest to people on here, I've got a podcast launching very soon about interviewing British players that have played abroad about their adventures overseas. That's that's in the process. Banked a couple of those. It's very exciting. Obviously, you can imagine the kind of we've got a few started, and you can imagine the kind of ideas for sort of players. I mean, I'm sure if I bagged a Robbie Fowler episode about his time in Australia, I'm sure you guys would be all over that. But all in good time.
Yeah, there's a long list of names of players that have gone to play abroad. But like I said, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone here also appreciated it. And listen, all the best for Palace next season, and hopefully I'll see you soon, my bro.
No, thanks for having me on, man. Much appreciated. And thanks to everyone watching in, man. Much appreciated.
All the best, G.